Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Brain Wealth with your host, Bryan Repple. Today, Bryan tackles the big question. The election is over, so what is next? Bryan is going to dive into the hottest topics surrounding this election. For example, what does Trump's return to the White House mean for your wallet? Bitcoin. What about Bitcoin? Is this a ticket to the moon, or is this just another crazy ticket to financial turbulence and distraction? And if inflation is supposedly cooling, why does your grocery bill still feel like you're feeding a small army? Well, here to tackle those questions now is the man himself, Bryan Repple. Bryan, good to see you. How are you, my friend?
Doing wonderful, Bill. You know, with the election over, the celebration is kind of cooling off, but we're seeing amazing things already taking place with this new administration. And
yeah, no, it is. It's going to be interesting. And that makes me think today's show is going to be not just interesting, but also maybe a little bit of fun. And I don't think people usually think of financial podcasts as having much fun in them.
well, I think part because when we think about money or what we dealt with the last 4 years,
Yeah.
the gaslighting and the fear and the just the strong words that this group uses against, I'm going to call it conservatives. It isn't fun. And I think what we're getting ready to experience again in our country, that patriotism, I think people are going to start experiencing fun again with their money, their wallets, get inflation back down. And I really hope we all start experiencing that feeling again and have the ability to save and the safety for our families. And we bring that Americanism, that patriotism back for all Americans, not one group, but all Americans.
Yeah. So let's start with the big question. I mean, and I think a lot of people are asking this on both sides of the aisle, the saner people, at least, as they're going, what does Trump's return to the White House mean for me and for my wallet? What's your take?
Well, I don't believe the world is falling apart and we're not somehow going back to something 100 years ago in our country. You know, it is the big question. What does Trump mean for your bottom line?
Right.
Now, listen, if you're going by history, and this is what was fun about the Trump administration, if you're going by history, it's sort of like, you go back to your favorite restaurant and all of a sudden they put your favorite dish back on the menu that they haven't served in 4 years. You're like, whoa, you know what to expect. You're already excited because you've missed it for 4 years and you've had that dish before. So during Trump's last term, we saw tax cuts. Now, you think about it, the left out there was promoting and saying tax cuts were only for the wealthy. That was complete gaslighting and a lie. The standard deduction, when they doubled it, helped so many middle-class, blue-collar, that middle-class families because their deductions now doubled. And if they weren't able to take the deduction before, now they were getting more tax benefits. Now, if they were itemizing and using their mortgage interest, real estate taxes, maybe they didn't get to experience all that, but the standard deduction doubling helped them out. Now, that is set to expire at the end of 2025, and we'll see what Trump does in the administration going forward. Now, we're also talking about deregulation and a focus on pro-growth policies. This has helped many Americans and businesses keep more of their money. So I believe this time it looks like we're heading for a similar playbook. Tax cuts leave more cash in your pocket. Deregulation can give businesses the green light to invest and to expand. We'll probably see businesses come back into the United States. So think of this like turbocharging the economy, more horsepower, faster acceleration, maybe a smoother ride. I believe we're going to see like sectors like energy, defense, financials. Those will probably be sectors that we see growth in. Again, that's not recommendations. It's just kind of, if you read the tea leaves and what the conversation's about, where Trump has been before in this administration, I think you can see there's a little bit of excitement and energy in my voice because I think all this is really potentially very positive for the Americans, the consumers, our government, pro-business, what Trump is. And, one of the bigger things that I'm really excited about is he just got confirmed. This recording is going to be probably 2 weeks delay, but it was Robert Kennedy Jr. Seeing someone come into our health services in our administration, we're having a conversation about make America healthy again. Whoa, how exciting is that? on this show, we talk about your health is your wealth. And if you go and do a Google search or you look up saying, what are the top 20 most unhealthy countries in the world? America comes in around 10 to number 12. I mean, we are the top. You want to talk about this is not the area you want to be the top 10 in the most healthy country in the world. America is. Here's this country that has the most abundant of resources, and we're the top 10. I mean, we're the top percent of unhealthy, diabetic, heart problems. And if you think about the countries in front of us, if you look at that, it's like Kuwait, some Samoan island. So this is ridiculous. If we can get some regulation back into the pharmaceutical and the food industry, to me, that's really exciting to get Americans healthy again, get them off the drugs, and get them living abundantly. To me, I'm just really excited about that, to see families healthy, kids healthy, and more importantly, to see families with a little breathing room in their budget with these tax cuts and some of the deregulation. So really, I think we're going to be looking at very hopeful. Now, listen, it's like anything. All these things can be great, but we got to keep an eye on, let's be real. Can some of these things lead to an increase in the national debt? Possibly. I think Trump is very paying attention to that, of how do we reduce the national debt. I don't think anyone's done a good job with that the last 20 years. Continue to increase the national debt, but that's something we're going to have to look at and pay attention to. So very optimistic about the going forward, about the markets, the economy, inflation. We're going to talk about that here at today's show. So let's see what happens. I mean, it's gonna be fun going forward.
Let me ask you a couple of questions here while we're still on the topic of Trump. And I do want to ask you a question about Robert Kennedy Jr. at Health and Human Services. We'll get there in a second, but let's go back to the one you were just talking about, and that is debt. We have a big debt problem. Our national debt is roughly 120, 130% of GDP at this point, which is just unsustainable. Do you think there's been a lot of talk about
how to pay it down?
Well, not even just how to pay it down, but how to cut spending. I mean, and this is the effort that Elon Musk is supposedly going to lead. Do you have much optimism in terms of the idea of these men looking at the efficiencies of the federal government and making recommendations in terms of where we could cut spending and where we could save money?
It's called Doji.
Yeah.
That's what it's called right there.
I know.
I mean, let's go. I mean, you got Elon Musk coming in there, Vivek. They're coming together. They are Department of Government Expense. They're going to come in there and let's start cutting down the size of government. Looking at the last year, the government was out hiring more employees for the federal government than the private sector.
I know a lot of people do not realize but that is the major part of where job growth has been for the last several years.
And that's not job growth when the government's hiring more people than the private sectors. The public sector was out hiring than the private sector. So we get in there, you get these two individuals in there, and this is, I mean, you almost call it like the dream team or the A team. And I think it's a really unique. Before the election, I was journaling the day before, and it was really a lot of fun to put words down on paper of like, what does this possibly look like? Of an Elon Musk, Vivek, a Donald Trump, Kelsey, you've got Vance, you've got these Robert Kennedy Jr., you've got these people coming together, now this is my belief, it may be different than others, with America's best interest in line. Because obviously all these individuals could be doing their own thing, building their own companies, making tons of money. And if they come in with the Americans' interest at heart, and that's what I mean, with the best of Americans' interests at heart.
Yeah.
What's possible? I mean, we could really, like we're talking about debt. Can we get this debt paid down? Can we start attacking it? Make Americans healthy again. Reduce inflation. Protect Americans by shutting the border. I don't believe in not allowing immigration. Create a pathway for immigration to our country that's affordable, and it goes through the correct process to get into the country. We need immigration. It's right. But illegal immigration open the floodgates. It's not the right way to grow this economy and allow access into our country.
Oh yeah, no. America, it should be noted, is the most open and the most welcoming country in the world. Not in this hemisphere, not in not in the whole entire world. And everyone from both sides of the aisle can agree that our immigration process is a mess. And and we keep waiting for somebody to come along. We keep waiting for this grown-up conversation where people say, what do we need? What are the qualifications? What is this policy going to look like, and how do people qualify to come here and be productive parts of this economy and this country?
Exactly right. And I think it's having adults at the table. And I think that's what's fun right now. The fact that the Republicans had the House, the Senate. I mean, for Trump to win like he did, it's such a movement right now. To get the electoral and the popular votes, such a big deal, and to get the House, the Senate. America spoke. It's time for change. It's time for real change, and no more of this gaslighting. Let's get real. Let's address these really big topics. Let's stop the opioid crisis going. I love the fact that Trump, he's not a drinker. He's not someone that goes out and does drugs. He's not a part. He is a guy that works nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
The guy sleeps like 3 to 4 hours. And there's something exciting to see someone the fact that what this man and his family has been through for the last 8 years, but even the last 4 years, and how he keeps showing up. It's a testament, because how many of us would have just said, let's just shut it down and go do our own thing. Let's go back to being billionaires again. Go back to being billionaires. What's that feel like? But the man
I don't know.
Showing
I have
up,
no idea.
Right? He shows up, and it's something about that resilience. And he's been attacked and shot at. And he was shot at. And he keeps showing up. He's not showing up for him. Yeah, I'm sure there's definitely ego in there. And I hear a lot of things behind the scenes, how empathetic and how just a cool guy is behind the scenes. But man, that's leadership. And there's something exciting about that. And I believe he's doing that for the American people, all Americans. It's going to be hard for a lot to see that. But it's there. And we can already see with Russia, the change of the Russia, Hamas, the wars that are going on. They're already coming to the table saying, hey, can we, let's solve this now.
Let's get this fixed. Let's get this fixed.
And I think that's what's really going to make the left really mad, is he gets in there and fixes these things in 90 days that they haven't been able to do in 4 years.
It is definitely going to be interesting. And now I do want to ask you about Robert Kennedy Jr., because his nomination has been one of the more controversial ones. And, and it's interesting. There are a lot of people expressing a lot of skepticism, a lot of reservation. Nothing.
Skepticism? The pharmaceutical companies.
No. The New York Post today the day we're doing this, they ran an editorial about the first order is do no harm, and this guy's going to do harm. So I want to get your take. Do you think he's going to be effective? He's going to meet a lot of resistance, because a lot of money and a lot of money's on the other side of what he wants to do. Let's just be honest.
Big money.
So do you think he's going to be able to have an impact, Bryan?
This is going to be it's going to be very interesting, because if you look at it, you take the pharmaceutical industry, which the pharmaceutical industry has combined to begin working with the food industry, which is pretty scary if you think about it. These are two massive industries that have a ton of lobbyists and a ton of money. And they're not very friendly people out there when you start trying to cut out their revenue streams.
Right.
And I don't necessarily believe that they're in the best interest of serving Americans to make people healthy. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a major upstream battle to start make these changes. But, if we can just have some regulation. Now, we talk about deregulation, but this is putting regulation in place, saying about the quality of our food and the things that are going in them, the dye, the quality of our food, that's how it's being processed. And if we can eliminate some, go to Europe. You go to Europe, South America, the same food product that they have over here and there, the ingredients are, we have like 40 different ingredients over there. That same product, maybe 4 ingredients. Why are we getting such a bad product of food here in America? And we got to change it around. If that can happen and we can make Americans healthy in some form, I mean, I know he's even talking about stem cells. Here, I've had done this show before about stem cells down
Yes, you have.
and he's talking about because he sees the benefit of opening up the access to stem cells here in America. That what they're doing in other places in the world, let's get them done here. It can help all sorts of diseases and health problems that people have, and let's make it cost effective and affordable for people to get that treatment and access to it. So, listen, I get it. It's going to be an uphill battle when you're going against these massive lobbyists.
Mm-hmm.
And like Trump said to Biden the other day, this is a dirty business. And he admits it when he went in the first term, he didn't know how to govern and he didn't know how dirty it was up there.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm
utterly and absolutely convinced of that, Brian. You know, it is so true, and I think it's probably one of those things you have to experience before you can understand just how
swampy it is.
Yeah, just that's good. That's swampy. It is right. I'm going to change topics now because following his election, cryptocurrency wasted no time in lighting a fuse and firing off into space. Bitcoin, I don't know where it is now, but Bitcoin went above $90,000 almost immediately following the election. So I got to ask you a question about what's your take on Bitcoin? Is this what's going to happen here? Or what are your thoughts?
Man, I think of Bitcoin like it's like karaoke night. You know, you think about it. You're nailing the high notes one moment. The next thing you're wondering, man, why did I even get up here and grab the mic?
Exactly,
I'm just falling apart.
Fair, that's a good analogy. I like that.
Feeling, you know, it's that up and down feeling. You know, it's right after the election. Bitcoin got a huge boost thanks to Trump because he really is. He's talking about cryptos. He wants to be a leader in this space. And this is the one guy who called Bitcoin a scam not too many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's getting like, hey, we're giving the nod of approval. We like it. We want to see like how do we adopt this new form of currency into the administration, into America. So he's open to it. So it's like your boss that used to hate. I think of it like here in our office. I used to hate casual Fridays. People showing up in jeans and just looking casual. It was like, all right. But now we're noticing it and people are enjoying it and now we do it. So how do you adapt to this? So for families, I really have to say this is not advice. I'm not saying to go out and this is always speculative. This part of the industry, but Bitcoin is still volatile enough to give you a whiplash. It's something that can be up and then all of a sudden the rug's pulled out from you. So the way I kind of look at it is, the key is treat crypto as it's a very speculative part of your portfolio. Think of it like as a side dish to the main course. It's exciting and trendy, but it should not replace the meat and the potatoes of your financial plan. So if you're planning to buy Bitcoin, remember this, it's a long-term game. Don't jump in expecting to retire next week unless you're comfortable with a 50%, maybe potential 75% swing in either direction. That's what we seen 3 years ago. It went down about 60 to 70%, and it's skyrocketed back up here. So I like to say, you got to be able to enjoy the crypto roller coaster ride. You know, if you're going to be in it, buckle up and hold on tight. I'm not making a recommendation. I'm not saying you should be in it or not be in it. But seek counsel and what's right for you about it. But listen, it is exciting. I always say I love my mom to death, but when my mom calls me up and says, "Hey, should I be getting into it right now?" I'm like, well, it's the highest it's ever been. That's like the pizza delivery guy coming in and saying, dude, you got to buy crypto now. It's like, it's the highest it's ever been. Can it go higher? Sure. But this is when people start really being speculative, buying it at its high point.
Yeah.
So,
no. It's
smart about it.
It's a really good point you make. I mean, I always say to people, and I have no opinion on Bitcoin. I always say to people, at least roller coaster rides, have safety features. whereas if you're going to get on the Bitcoin ride, man, be prepared. Be prepared. Good, solid advice.
In our portfolios, in some of our managed portfolios, we have constraints where we do have 2 to 4% of leeway to allocate to crypto, Bitcoin specifically in our portfolios. But we do have constraints on it. We're never going to over allocate to an asset class that has so much volatility. But we like to be in it and have I have a portion of our portfolios, a small portion. Like I said, it's a side dish. It's just a little piece that we want to have allocated to it. but we want to make sure we manage the risk of it as well.
Yeah. Okay, this next question I really want to hear your take on because I love this question actually. I If inflation is cooling, why does everything still feel expensive, Brian?
Bill, have you ever had a friend that you're like, hey man, this he's chilled out. He's cool now. He's fun to be around. But then you get around them like, man, that guy's still so intense. Are you kidding? He's not relaxed. Well, that's where inflation is. They're talking about everything's kind of chilled out, but the reality is still a little intense out there. And because we're in the early phases of it too. Has the rate of inflation slowed down? Yes, but prices aren't going to magically just start dropping down to pre-pandemic prices. So it's like, I'll give you the idea. It's like climbing a mountain. I do these mountain hikes. It's like climbing a mountain. Just because the incline is less steep doesn't mean you're still not a little tired, huffing and puffing to get to the top.
Yeah.
So, let's break it down. What are the big areas? Let's kind of look at what are the big areas that are keeping inflation kind of sticky. We've got housing. We've got healthcare. We got just dining out, going to the grocery store. So, you go to the grocery store, I saw, what was the joke on one of the MSNBC hosts was like saying, oh no, butter's like $3. Mika, I'm not big fans of them, so I don't watch it. I just saw clips. And one guy, one of the Scarborough says, oh, a stick of butter's like $3. And his wife turns to him, Mika, and she's like, no, it's like $8. And he's like, $8 for butter? Are you kidding me? Well, he got the sticker shock live on TV. Yeah, we know that the grocery store bills are still high. Now, this is the benefit of what Trump talks about. Drill, baby, drill. Because if we can get back to being the leaders of gas exporting, gas drilling, oil drilling, we get that machine cranking up again, it's going to be so much less expensive for the drivers to commute, all the prices should start adjusting as we start lowering the cost to get just products moved around in our country. So it's going to take a little time, I think, to get that down. But that's one of Trump's big initiatives is getting inflation under control, getting it down. We're starting to see interest rates already go down. So I think we're going to have to go through some cycles here, maybe 1, 2, 3 quarters into next year and see what this really does look like. So here's what it is. What does it mean what does it mean for the families? Really, it's you still got to play defense. It is trimming some cost where you can, especially on discretionary spending. I get it. No one likes to cut costs, but do you really need that morning $7 brew from Starbucks, spending $7 to $12 at a Starbucks? There's other ways you can cut costs, start saving a couple dollars. Listen, we've had these experiences for hundreds of, let's go back 100 years. It's just so easy to spend money these days. You get on your phone, they've made money so to tap into our wallets so easy. Yeah. So it's our ability to have a little bit of discipline, say no, let's just keep those dollars so we can build up that emergency fund. We have those resources. Let's just make smart investment choices. Let's be intentional where your money goes. Let me repeat that. Be intentional where your money goes. Just don't allow money to transfer out unknowingly or unnecessarily. And man, that takes discipline. It's like going to the gym. It takes discipline. It takes time. But be intentional about where you spend those money, and let's make smart choices and keep those dollars for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last question I have, I want to say what's your advice, but I know you're not in the business of dispensing advice on the podcast. So let me ask you what your thoughts are about how investors should navigate maybe the next few months, because we still got to get through to the inauguration and then the time following it, the years after that. What are your thoughts on what happens next and how should folks navigate them?
Yeah, Bill, if you think about it, would you ever go put your family I was thinking, I love this analogy. I talk to clients about this a lot, is saying, would you ever go put your family in the car and say, hey, what are we doing? We're going on a road trip. And they're like, what do you mean you're going on a trip? Where are we going? Like, doesn't matter. There's no map. We don't have a GPS. Well, you would end up lost. You would have nowhere to go. It would not be much fun. Well, retirement planning and planning is like that. It starts with clear goals. And I repeat this all the time, covering the basics, prioritizing the extras like travel or hobbies. We got to understand what's the market volatility, what risk do you want to take? Let's look at taxes, healthcare costs, longevity. We got to bring that all together with a plan. And with that plan, we build the GPS. We're like, hey, this is where we are. We're in the car. This is where we want to go. What does that experience look like from where you are today and where you want to be in the future? And how are we going to build that out? I get new clients coming in all the time, and these families come in and they're like, we're confused. We got all these moving parts and none of it's being brought together. And that's where the GPS comes in. This is your money journey. I love saying that line because it's your money and your journey. Having clear goals and an outcome where you're going to be in the future and what you're doing now and where you're going to be in the future, and understanding how do you travel? How do you expense out those hobbies? And how do you live life during that time? It's important. It's what everybody wants to do. It's not just saying, hey, I'm just going to put away money and I'll have this for the future. I want to live life too. So as we go through the next, we got to get to January 20th. And then we got the 4 years after that. And the 4 years after that, we're always going to have these cycles and changes. But I do believe the next 4 years are going to be extremely exciting. And man, it's going to be, we got to get to January 20th. I just feel like everybody's playing so nice up in Washington right now. And that seems so like not the way it usually is. So,
well, it is interesting because people have been so far. I mean, with exception. I mean, there are always going to be people who react badly on either side of the political aisle to whatever it is that happens.
It's too calm right now.
Too
calm.
My fingers are crossed, Brian. I'm knocking on wood here. I'm hoping that it's like, no, actually, maybe we have returned to normalcy.
Was the whooping so bad that everyone's like, maybe we need to readdress our message and stop the anti-hate and the gaslighting. Listen, on both parties. I'm not saying Trump's perfect in some of the things he says, but I believe a lot of stuff is taken out of context, clips, and used to stir the pot more than that needs to be. But it is very calm up there, and we'll see what happens. But we got to get to the 20th, and I am looking forward to all the new administration, and I'm really big on the health side. That was a great conversation day because I really pray that we're able to make some movement towards healthy choices for all of us, for all Americans, and let's get people off the medication and let's get people healthy again. To me, that's just exciting because your health is your wealth. There's nothing worse than accumulating and talking about saving up money than being sick. Because if you're sick, you think about nothing else in life about how do I get better? And that's not living life. I want to see people living life and get people diabetics. Let's get people not where they're diabetics anymore. Let's get them off the diabetic side. Let's get their health, not just healthy spiritually, but let's get their health physically healthy as well. I just think it's a great time to bring the body, the mind, and the spirit together. And let's pray over this country and see where this goes for the next 4 years.
I had a feeling you were going to feel this way, Brian. For people who are listening to this conversation who maybe have never heard you before and think maybe it would be a good idea to have a conversation with you or somebody in your office, how do they reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, Bill, thank you. Let's go to Repple, REPPLE. Go to ReppleWealthGroup.com. If you go to ReppleWealthGroup.com, we'll set up a 15-minute consultation, or if you're an existing family client out there, just drop in. Let's have a call and do a review and talk about anything that's on your mind and on your heart.
Very good. The other thing you can do if you're listening to this podcast is become a subscriber. And that is easy. You just have to pick up your finger and hit the follow button or the subscribe button. And that way, every time a new episode drops, you can listen to it. You won't miss one. That's the bonus. You won't ever miss one. And I would ask, look, if you like this podcast, share it with people, please. Tell people about it. Word of mouth promotion is welcome here, and we would thank you for it. So until next time, I'm Bill Tucker on behalf of Brian and everybody at Repple Wealth Management, or Repple Wealth Group, pardon me. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. And we will remind you that you can go out today and make today a great day or not. The choice is yours. Have a great one. Until next time.